The following video contains language that may be inappropriate for young viewers. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Welcome to Behind the Bars, where we bring the unseen and the unheard stories from the depths of the prison system to the forefront. I'm your host, Jason Boss, and together we'll explore the madness, the chaos, and the harsh realities hidden behind the steel doors of prisons worldwide. From the local jailhouse to death row across the world, we'll show you the isolation, the seclusion, and the decades spent enduring unimaginable conditions. These are the stories of survival, struggle, and humanity in places most of us will never see. We're here to shine a light on what society often forgets, the voices of the incarcerated. Each story is real, each voice is authentic, and every moment reveals the raw, unfiltered truth of life behind the bars. Join me for a journey like no other, a journey into the darkness, the truth, and the resilience of the human spirit. This is Behind the Bars, real life, real stories. Welcome to Behind the Bars. I'm your host, Jason Boss. Today we delve into the perplexing case of Charles Mamu Jr., a man who has spent over 25 years in solitary confinement for a crime he staunchly asserts he did not commit. A crime that, upon scrutinizing court documents, raises significant doubts about his guilt. In December 1998, a drug deal in Houston, Texas spiraled into chaos. The encounter led to a violent shootout, resulting in the tragic deaths of Terrence Gibson and 17-year-old Mary Carmouche. Prosecutors alleged that Mamou orchestrated the botched drug transaction, during which he fatally shot Gibson, abducted Carmouche, and later took her life. Notably, an all-white jury convicted Mamou, a black man, raising concerns about racial biases in the judicial process. Mamou has consistently maintained his innocence, and a thorough examination of the court documents reveals inconsistencies and a lack of concrete evidence tying him to the crime. Despite these uncertainties, he was sentenced to death and has been confined in isolation for over a quarter of a century. In this episode, we will meticulously analyze the court transcripts, uncover overlooked details, and question the integrity of the investigation and trial. Is Charles Mamu Jr. an innocent man wrongfully imprisoned? Join us as we seek to uncover the truth. From Behind the Bars, this is one controversial case. Stay tuned. This is an episode you will want to miss.
Things were different in Harris County, Texas, 2 decades ago. It could be said there was a thirst for blood that is less pronounced now. Charles Mamou will most likely get an execution date in the near future for a case that was prosecuted when securing a death penalty was a badge of honor, celebrated even. It was more acceptable in the halls of justice at that time to jam the pieces of the puzzle into place if investigators or a prosecutor wanted a particular someone for a crime, or throw the pieces out if need be. Hopefully, things are different now. Mamou will pay with his life for the climate of the late 90s, but it's not too late to share what the prosecution knew when they tried the case, and what they know today for that matter. There was little interest in finding out what happened back when they could have, and a lot of interest in making a guilty verdict stick, which took some doing with no evidence. Charles Mamou first wrote for this site in March 2018. Out of curiosity, I looked up some articles about him after the first few pieces he submitted. 2 things stood out: allegations of sexual assault, some articles saying he was charged with that crime, and a pair of his sunglasses that were reported to have been left near the body. It had to be true if he left his sunglasses, right? I envisioned the location to be an abandoned house on a block of old abandoned houses. It wasn't until I started reading Mamou's case file I learned the sunglasses were miles from the body that was found in a residential neighborhood. And the sexual assault? There's a lot more to that story as well. Charles Mamu Jr. was born and raised in Sunset, Louisiana, and early on he began taking care of his family and broke the law to do it. Like many before him and since, some of his most successful role models were drug dealers. And so began his life of crime. He wasn't a choir boy, but he had a reputation for helping people out. Houston, Texas, wasn't Mamou's stomping ground. He didn't know the area like the back of his hand, but his dad lived there, as well as a couple cousins. He would travel to the area for business, if you can call it that. That is why he was there in December 1998. He was involved in a transaction that included several other individuals, all of whom were residents of Houston. He wasn't even driving his own car on that trip. He was staying with a couple in their apartment and was being driven by others tied to the same anticipated business transaction. The evening of December 6, 1998, was mild and dry. Lantern Point Drive, where the drug deal and attempted robbery eventually took place, had no lights, and according to police, it was a cloudy night. Samuel Johnson was driving the car Mamou was in. Terrence Dodson had been a participant in the transaction earlier in the day, but had since gone home. The car they met on the dark street where it all took place carried 4 passengers, including Mary Carmouche. All surviving parties later admitted to their involvement in a drug deal gone wrong, although no one was ever charged with anything involved in that incident other than Charles Mamou, who was charged with kidnapping when he fled the scene after gunfire erupted and his partner drove away without him. The deceased individual had a loaded gun next to his body, leaving a good argument for self-defense. Mary Carmouche was driven to the location by 3 men who were there to rob Mamou, and she was in the back seat of the car he sped away in. When security guards arrived shortly after the shooting, which took place around midnight, 1 man was dead and 2 were injured. Both vehicles were gone. The 2 surviving men both testified in court that the vehicle Samuel Johnson was driving drove off first, leaving Charles Mamou behind. Mamou then jumped into the blue Lexus and fled the scene. According to the testimony of Kevin Walter,
"All right. Then where was the blue Lexus at the point you picked up the gun?"
Taking off.
"Where was the red car?"
Done took off.
"It had taken off before the blue car?"
Yes.
Kevin Walter had no reason to lie about which car took off first, and according to his testimony, Samuel Johnson drove away first in the red car, leaving Charles Mamou, who then jumped in the blue Lexus and drove away. Dion Hawley was the other individual who was shot at the scene. His testimony was as follows.
"All right. And what did you see?"
"I saw the red car backing up and turned around in the street, and I saw the blue car leaving off."
When you say you saw the red car backing up and turning around, how did they make, if they're going backwards, how did they turn around and go the other way? Is it like a 3-point turn where they stop, back up, and pull around? Or is it like a scene on shows where they're able to hit the brakes and the car spins around?
"That's pretty much how it was."
So it was a very quick thing?
"Yes."
Did it appear to you that the red car was trying to get out of there really quick?
"That's correct."
And then that vehicle was followed by your mom's Lexus?
"That's correct."
Samuel Johnson, the driver of the red car and Mamou's associate in the deal, later became a suspect in this case. Although his version of events contradicted all of the witnesses' testimony, the prosecution went with his description of what took place. According to Samuel Johnson's statement to police, he was not concerned about Charles Mamou or the car that could have held the drugs he was there to buy that night. He was not concerned about the shooting he had been involved in, or the girl whose whereabouts he supposedly knew nothing about. The following is Johnson's testimony regarding what happened next.
You go directly home?
Yeah.
Did you tell your wife what happened?
No, she was asleep at the time.
Pretty exciting events in our life, isn't it?
Very exciting.
You just get in bed and go to sleep?
No, I took a shower.
Took a shower, and then got in bed and went to sleep?
No, opened me a can of soda and went to bed.
Talked to anybody that night?
No.
The next morning, Samuel Johnson got up in his usual fashion and headed to work, where he was employed as an organ man, treating homes in the Houston area. Charles Mamou has always maintained that he followed Samuel Johnson back to the apartments, with Mary Carmouche in the car. According to Mamou, there were other individuals present in the parking lot of the apartments when they arrived, along with himself, the victim, and Johnson. 20 years later, there are witnesses that support that.
sun went down on a Houston night. A deal went bad and the law took flight. Didn't need no fingerprints, didn't need no proof. Just a man to blame and they called it the truth. 2 cars ran when the bullets flew. One left first, but they never knew. Didn't care who shot, didn't care who lied. Just needed a name for a man to die. Oh, Texas ain't blind, but it sure looks away when the truth don't fit what they want to say. They wrote their story, made the ending tight. Now Charles Mamu's running out of life. Said he left his shades by the body that night, but they were miles away out of their sight. Didn't stop them, they still played their game. Made sure the jury remembered his name. Oh, Texas ain't blind, but it sure looks away when the truth don't fit what they want to say. They wrote their story, made the ending time. Now Charles Mamu's running out of life. They built a case out of smoke and sand. Now a good man's fate is in their hands. It's been 20 years, but the clock won't wait. How long till justice wakes up too late? Oh, Texas ain't blind, but it sure looks away when the truth don't fit what they want to say. They locked the door, threw out the key. Now Charles Mamu's fighting to be free. There's county nights cold as stone, some in pain, even when they're alone.